Lucky Lefty podcast. The day has finally arrived, Notre Dame fans. We go all the way back to week 0 in August down in College Station. The journey has been long. It's been ups, it's been downs, it's been disappointments, it's been jubilation. But we're here. 12-team playoff, expansion, college football, Notre Dame Stadium, IU, the little brother. That's right, the little brother in the state. Nobody really talks about him. I'm surprised they even invited to the cookout. But here they are. So we need to treat them like how they're supposed to be treated. 7 p.m. tonight, Central Time, Notre Dame, Indiana is finally here. And we are brought to you by ONORA Whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. It is that premium American whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. And if you're going to drink this weekend in celebration, you have to make sure that you do it
responsibly.
Let's get it, Left. Lucky Lefty podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Lucky Lefty Network. Hit that thumbs up. Helps with the views. Make sure you share. Make sure that you leave your comments and questions. We respond to all. ONORA boys. Audio edibles each and every day. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Lock in. X, TikTok, Instagram, Lucky Lefty Pod, Patreon.com, Lucky Legends and Players Only Podcast, the Players Only Podcast preview of the game. It's up right now. Great show last night. I think Kai Nelson, Reggie Brooks, Jerome Jones, MALIK, ZAIRE. Great content. Go check it out. Exclusively Patreon, patreon.com/Lucky Lefty Network. We are the home of the misguided passion. And we will forever be committed to making sure that we spin it different. What's good with it, Left?
Game day.
It's game day. Yeah. Where's your anxiety? You're not nervous at all. Like, you've been
not for this one.
You've been so disrespectful to Indiana all week. Huh?
It's not an Indiana thing. It's just, Notre Dame knew they needed to be able to recoup a bunch of money in an unfavorable position, and as long as they were able to accomplish that, we didn't care where we placed in the tournament, because our thing is, how can we capitalize and guarantee an extended season to make money for this Notre Dame community?
Yeah, here we are.
Who would agree to that? As an independent, you agree we can only get so high. Who would agree to that? Unless you had a lot of benefits taking that 5th spot.
Well, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. We bring in our guy, man, brother, friend of the family. I know he's been doing great. Man, New Mercies has been all over his life in this season, man. And we're going to talk about the mental approach to this game. You guys mentioned something last night on the Players Only podcast that normally coaches and players that are on the current roster can reach out to former players and ask for pieces of advice on what can be done. And for the first time, there is nothing that former players can say. There is nothing that you can say to a current player on the roster to say, yeah, this is how you prepare for a playoff game at Notre Dame Stadium. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this team handles the situation. And I want to bring in our brother Cam McDANIEL right here, Lucky Lefty Podcast. And mental approach, Cam. Mental approach. Before we get to that, give us your thoughts, man. How are you feeling? I know you're excited. Where are you going to be watching the game? You going to be watching it with the family, or you going out, or watch party?
No.
I got my little man here, so we're going to be watching it at home tonight for sure.
Okay.
he's always enthusiastic about some Notre Dame football. So
there we go. We got him doctrinized already.
You kind of have a double blessing in this playoff though, because you have a connection also from past relationships with the SMU program as well. So Notre Dame's in it, SMU's in it. That for you, that has to feel like double affirmation of some of the connections that you have.
Yeah, no, definitely enthusiastic about what SMU's been able to do this year. It's funny how it all shook out there at the end. I wasn't sure if they were gonna make it after the loss to Clemson, but they're fortunate enough to be in, and I know some of the guys over there, and they're stoked about it. So it's been a fun year for that program.
Okay, Cam McDANIEL joins us right here, Lucky Lefty Podcast, and we're talking mental approach. The one thing that came up last night on the Players Lounge, Players Only Podcast, was and Left has harped about it. Left is like, man, trying to play a game during finals week is different at Notre Dame, man. And I heard Howard Cross on Sunday saying, man, I have 3 papers that are due in the next 24 hours. And I'm like, yo, that is insane. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
There's nothing else, no well that they can pull from to say this is how you handle this situation of being a Notre Dame student athlete going into a playoff. From hearing Marcus Freeman and from the well and experience that both of you guys have, what's the best thing for them to be able to handle everything that encapsulate this week? Because I'm sure they're getting ticket requests from family members as well, all of that type of stuff. What's the best way for them to handle that this week?
Yeah, as much as you can, treat it like any other week. That I know it is finals week, so that always can add a layer of complexity, while at the same time, for some people, might provide a layer of relief that don't have as many finals or whatever. So just case by case basis. But I think, the best thing to do is to approach it like it is any other week from a preparation standpoint, but then from a mental perspective, the enthusiasm of being able to really create a new narrative around Notre Dame football and post-game big-time games. I mean, that's been something that everybody's been talking about. And as a competitor, the ability to have that opportunity to compete in that context and to do something that Notre Dame hasn't done in, man, damn near 3 decades, I think is something to have in mind. From a, I don't know if we call it like a motivational perspective or whatever, but just like, hey, this is a challenge accepted moment for these boys.
That accepted moment. Marcus Freeman was asked, when did you know you had a playoff team? And he said, I didn't know until the clock hit 000 at USC. And then I was like, yo, we're a playoff team. He said there were moments, early in the year that I said, this is the most talented team I've ever had here at Notre Dame. But talent doesn't always to equate. You've been on extremely talented teams. You talk about it all the time. Like, yo, that was a talented team that had the talent to be able to win a national championship. However, these things happen. You talk about changing the narrative. Are you getting the feeling that all things are now coming together from administration? Pete Bavacqua taking over his direction, him being locked in step with Marcus Freeman's growth, the staff he's built with Al Golden, Mike Denbrock. Then we're going to talk about Loren Landow a little bit later, what you've seen from a strength conditioning standpoint, physicality standpoint from this team later on. But do you feel like all of the puzzle pieces are coming together that Notre Dame as a program can finally change that narrative?
Yeah, it's hard for me to speak on some of those things because I'm just not there internally anymore. But as far as seeing a championship program, the way that these guys have responded since NIU, I think has been what they've needed to do. They've faced some significant injuries, which I guess, we can't get into that all later. But we've got a young team relatively as far as some of these key positions, whether it's in the secondary or people that have had to step up on the D line at the linebacker position, a lot of stuff on defense, obviously. Jeremiah Love has just had an epic season. I mean, I think he's the most electric running back in the NCAA. You know, we talk about Ashton Genty and like what he's been able to accomplish. And there's some other guys out there. I think this is a big time running back year for the NCAA, but what Jeremiah Love does from a highlight reel perspective, I think is absolutely unique. We just went this way.
Is there anyone, because playing the position at Notre Dame, a lot of people say, well, Jeremiah Love, he reminds me of Theo Riddick, or he reminds me of Ricky Waters. And I'm like, yo, I've been watching since the 80s. And I'm like, the kid, and I remember covering his recruitment and watching him in a playoff game break the line of scrimmage and run away from Christian Gray as Christian Gray was chasing him, and was having a conversation with Christian Gray while he was running away from him. And I'm like, okay, this dude is different.
Yeah.
This dude is different. When you watch him as a running back, from the eyes of a running back, what makes him so special? Since you say you think he's the most electric in college football.
Honestly, like when we're talking about running back comparisons, the closest comparison that I see, not to like overhype or anything, but like I see Reggie Bush. I see that sort of versatility. Just a guy that, yeah, man, like he just has the ability to make a big play at any moment. He's that guy on our field, and a guy that, man, just so unique. We've had some really good running backs over the last, like, you know, multiple decades. Like we've always had, I think, a good stable, always had individuals that had the ability to take it the distance, but there's something just intangible and electric about Jeremiah Love. It's hard for me to place it exactly, other than I feel like he just has this level of versatility that I haven't seen in a back in a long time. The way he moves, like his biomechanics are so different from a lot of the guys that we've seen, like here at Notre Dame. Like if you're comparing him to like a Theo or Ricky Waters or whatever, I just think biomechanically so much different. He runs with so much like grace and kind of straight up like an Eric Dickerson, like at times, but then just has the ability to do some things that I think make him so unique and make it that Jeremiah Love effect that's very unique to him. And the cool thing is like it doesn't stop there. Like the stable keeps going with Jadarian Price and like some of the other guys that are included in the mix as well, because Price, man, like he's also can take it the distance at any time. Like, and so there's in the running back game, I'm really proud of just those guys and what they've been able to do this year. They've been, I think, such a key factor for the team. I mean, the rushing attack has been Notre Dame's primary offensive strength. It's just hands down, like that has been it. And so it'll be really interesting for me to see the dynamics of basically the success that they've had and how they can carry that into the postseason, but then how that opens up Riley and the passing game that we've seen just kind of like gradually get better and better and better every week. There seems to be like more synchronicity and more opportunity for big plays. The quarterback tight end combination, like the quarterback tight end kind of connections, I think have been more prevalent, which is consistent with Notre Dame's past and something that I think is we've been missing like early on in the season, that we were able to start to finally, cultivate that connection again towards the end of the season, getting multiple tight ends involved and people stepping up there. So yeah, overall, just I'm excited to watch it, man. We got a really great team, and I think that we're competitive enough to make a run for this thing.
Hey,
I was
Les.
thinking a lot of
Yeah, go.
Jeremiah Love as a DeMarco Murray type. Just
I can see that.
He's
I can
got
see that.
DeMarco mixed with like a George Atkinson in terms of like his running style in open field. Because he's got that, I don't want to call it track speed, but he's got that up and down speed where you think he's running high, but he's moving, you know. And so I really think that his ability to be as good as he is and not be the guy that other teams are worried about as the main threat. I think that's the beautiful part of what we're able to put together, because if he's only getting at times 7 carries, 10 carries a game, and we're comparing him to the likes of a DeMarco Murray and a Reggie Bush, what are the other 50 snaps? What are the other 50, 60 snaps? So I think that dynamic adds something that I think is different than a Boise State who Ashton Genty is the guy.
Yeah, he's the bell cow.
They're like, oh, that's you stop him, we win the game.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Love getting 10 carries in the game may be impactful, but that's still only 10 plays out of the whole game. So I think it's for IU, they have to look at it as where do we think the more consistent effort is going to come from? And when he does get on the field, can we limit it from being all explosive plays? And I think that's just a hard thing to do when you're trying to cover so many holes. And at the same time, you got to score points.
Yeah. That is a rare dynamic. I actually don't know the average yard or carries per game. Is it in between that 10 to 15 range, Malik?
He's had stretches where now, granted,
I think his most carries were 17. 17 carries is his high on the year.
Wow.
In a game.
Wow.
High. And it's not around that either, you know, that's his highest. Like his average is probably around 10, 12.
Yeah. I guess that kind of makes sense the way that they still do the running back rotations, because they get Jadarian Price in there, rolling pretty good usually, and Williams is getting in there as well. So, I mean, they've got a stable of guys that are capable. Just for me, I do wonder if we've been saving some of that, Jeremiah Love effect for the postseason.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He needs to be at 20 to 23 touches.
Yeah, double the load almost.
Especially if we're going to, I would love to see that shine in the games that I think change and make the season, which would be Georgia potentially week after this one.
Yep.
That's where he has to be touching it 25. That's if we were saving them, okay, this is where we don't save. And I don't know how comfortable we are getting out of that strategy, because we're good for not adjusting when things are, in the midst, in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Like we'll go into games where we're looking around being like, dude, we know what we need to do, but we're still doing the same thing. Like, okay, easy fix if we just do this, but we're trying to still keep this fun-loving, everybody gets a trophy attitude. And I think that's my worry going against teams in premier games, because that's what you end up seeing. You're like, okay, where's the playmaker at? The Ohio State game. You go Aldrich Estimate last drive, and then you get off of it to do crazy things. It's like, wait a minute. Why are you still doing this southern rotation with 2 minutes left in the game? That's over with.
Yeah.
It's the Aldrich thing to finish out. And it's like things like that have me concerned.
Yeah. Those are always frustrating moments for sure. My one challenge would be, obviously, Jadarian Price has shown that he needs touches as well, which keeps Jeremiah fresh and potentially has been giving him the ability to be electric as he has been. and both of those two to get together really haven't skipped a beat. That's the interesting component, I think, here is you definitely want to continue to get that guy touches because of his versatility as well and what he's able to do. Not like a direct comparison or anything, but you think of like these really dynamic running back duos over the years. And, I was comparing Jeremiah to like Reggie Bush a little bit in that effect that I feel like he has just athletically overall. Reggie had Landow. And I'm thinking of, man, was it Cornell Cadillac Williams over at Auburn, like back in the day?
Yeah.
And then
Ronnie Brown.
Ronnie Brown. Yeah, those two, that dynamic was just insane. And I really believe that we've got, as electric as Jeremiah is, like Jadarian has to be getting, he's got to be getting touches.
And then you're thinking, wow, that's not even, you wouldn't even expect, like, yes, that's an easy solution in a premier offense for 99% of college football. We haven't even talked about the tight ends. We haven't talked about the dominance of the O-line. Yep. We haven't talked about the potential threats on the outside or from our slots. I mean, the range of talent and the options that you have offensively, even though we can pick at, we may not have done this enough or this enough, the options available, I think, are what Marcus Freeman is most excited for. That's why when you hear him talk about recruiting and you hear him talk about transfer portal, he's taking more of a, I'll let it come to me.
Yeah.
He set it up so much of a 1A, 1B instead of a ones and twos that he's like, man, guys are going to filter in when they're ready.
Yeah.
I just got to stay consistent on bringing the right amount of push for the next class above.
Yeah, and that's what I'll give Coach Denbrock, significant credit on is I feel like he has done a great job this year of early on in the season. We saw a lot of offensive struggles and like things like looking to get started. And it was the running game that really has been the foundation of the season to be able to build upon to where, after NIU week, again, another strong rushing attack, but then we start to see some life in the passing game finally. And I feel like some guys started to step up there. Again, the tight end connection that I was talking about, I think we really have started to establish that and build that again, which is huge for like a dynamic rushing game. Like if you can have the dynamic rushing attack with Jeremiah, Riley, Jadarian, and everybody else respectively involved in that that dynamic of the game, and then tack on the type of tight end play that Notre Dame is known for having. I mean, we can be okay having younger guys on the perimeter and playmakers, but maybe not as consistent as we've had in years past. But I feel like all that's been developing. It's kind of like just been building upon itself all season long. And that's, I think, what makes me most enthusiastic about this postseason opportunity. I can't remember a time where I feel like I'm this optimistic about Notre Dame's postseason. This Notre Dame's postseason ability to make a run. And I think a lot of that also has to do with the dynamics of how things have evened themselves out a bit across the board and in college football. I feel like there's not one team that stands out as oh my gosh, this is the absolute dominant, team in the NCAA this year. I feel like the top five or six teams actually, really even beyond that, I think really almost that top 10 team, all of them can kind of be competitive with each other, and you really don't know, whoever shows up at their best really has the opportunity to take it. And that's fun. It's a fun thing to be able to reminisce upon this year and see college football look and feel so much differently than it's ever felt with this massive playoff expansion, and now we've got multiple teams involved, and it's like, wow, like this is going to be a fun process to watch play out, because we really don't know who it's going to be this year. Like, we can speculate like some guys for sure, but I think the definitiveness of like, oh, it's going to be Bama this year, or it's going to be Georgia, or it's going to be, one of these two teams. I feel like that's not, most people would agree. I believe that we've got a kind of up in the air playoff system right now.
It's crazy because now hindsight, of course, but this has been the perfect season in the regular season. The way it's gone, the way things have been even, what you're talking about, having 10 teams that you feel like if they get on a run, they could possibly win it all. The NCAA, the presidents, and I know people might not even look. I thought about this. I said, this is why they started to change rules 2-3 years ago. They knew this expansion was coming, and they knew for the expansion to be an optimal peak of interest, that the landscape of college football and recruiting and everything had to change to make it more feasible for teams that were kind of like tier 2, tier 3 teams to kind of be elevated. It was almost like they were stirring the pot and making this gumbo to kind of like just put on the table for everybody to be able to taste in 2024. But they really started cooking it 3 years ago from an administration standpoint to say, okay, this is how we're going to get it perfect.
Yeah,
and we're going to allow these. That's why the scheduling for recruiting has changed every year over the last 3 years. The portal has shifted and changed because they were really setting the atmosphere for what was the 2024 regular season, and they hit a home run in my opinion. Dude, this playoff, I expect it to be just as good as the regular season. I really do.
Yeah, I've been telling people this. I'm like, this is probably some of the most exciting college football I've ever seen. And it's just been fun to watch. I feel like the SEC kind of got to a point to where we're finally seeing, like things are even. I mean, it's a slaughterhouse over there in that like conference first and foremost. But then you've got the big conference, which is, dude, those guys. That's a highly competitive conference as well right now. And then kind of like scattered out like throughout the rest of the conferences, you've got these other competitive programs that have had the ability to come up in ways that maybe they hadn't in the past with this shift. So I'm really intrigued to see how some of those teams do. Like, it'll be interesting to see how like Arizona State plays out in some of this. SMU, obviously. Some of these other teams obviously are getting written off like pretty hard right now. But I don't know, man. Something about the dynamic of how this is all done. It feels a lot more like March Madness, like in a way.
Yeah.
Where you've got like, hey, really anything could happen. And you think about the NFL, man, like it's happened historically in the NFL so much with a larger, playoff kind of selection, where these guys that come in wild card games with 6 losses or whatever come in, and all of a sudden, they're there in the Super Bowl and challenging to win or winning the Super Bowl. And I'm kind of stoked to see how some of that stuff shakes out here this year. And obviously, again, I told you guys, I'm optimistic that Notre Dame is easily up there with the most competitive of the teams, just from a talent perspective, from a mentality perspective, from a coaching perspective. I think we check all of those boxes. I have my own concerns on some of the stuff that like MALIK brings up every now and then, with just kind of the political nature of and dynamics of the team. And I'm not sure what all that looks like here, but knowing DeMarco, Luck, I do believe that they're gonna go for it. And DeMarco was always the type of guy that was like, hey, we're gonna go with the guys that we know give us the best chance to win. And I think once you get to this part of the season, you really just dial that in at a whole nother level. And don't think they need to change much with what they've been doing, especially first week against Indiana. Just like go be who you are, establish the running game, and let the other things just progressively open up. Let your defense keep playing, the way that they've been playing. It's going to be really fun Friday night in South Bend, and they're going to be flying around. And I think that it's going to be loud, and there's going to be it's going to be a fun defensive game, in my opinion. I think the secondary is going to have a lot of action, obviously, with IU's passing attack. So I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome tonight.
As a captain, what are Jack Kaiser, Xavier Watts, Riley Leonard, Riley Mills, and the rest of the leaders? What is their main responsibility leading into this game? Like during practices this week, like I'm sure they had conversations with coach, prior to this week starting and preparing for this week in the practices. But being in that position, I think the day before the Music City Bowl, you kicked the coaches out and you spoke to the players to get everyone in lock and step. So what do you think that responsibility and what is it like for those guys to kind of like get everybody focused on the same goal and doing what you just said? Hey, we're going to be who we are. Nothing has changed. We're going to be who we are when the ball is kicked off.
Yeah. I think one aspect to that is I'll use an old Colt McCoy quote where he says the hay's in the barn. So I think that coming with that mentality is key. I do believe that as a captain, when you've got to this point in a season, which I didn't at Notre Dame, like as a captain, we weren't at that point necessarily. We were at a 6-0 marker, and we're still, challenging up until basically the latter part of the season. But to be where they are right now and to have the sort of momentum that they've had going into this game, I really believe that everything's already there. Like the work's been done in a way. And so the biggest thing to get coordinated on is basically, I would say that player to player dynamic to where like I've always been a huge fan of player only meetings in weeks like this to just set the tone of what's on the line and just reminding everybody the sacrifice and really what it's taken to like get to this point. It's a good reflection moment. It's a good gratitude moment to be able to reflect with the rest of the team. And really, I'm not sure how common that is at this point, like amongst these institutions with all the NIL stuff and the way that like most players, like the way that players operate these days. I'm not sure how many people are doing those, player only settings and taking the time to have those moments with their team before such a dynamic opportunity. So that would be the biggest thing for me is having that reflective moment, just saying, hey man, like there's nothing that we need to really do differently other than to show up as who we are and to play the very best football that we've ever played in our lives collectively as a unit, and to know that we all got each other's backs out there, because that is the most fun thing that you can ever do as a football player, is step on the field with a team that's a championship caliber team and just know, shit, man, like we got each other's backs and like there aren't any gaps. Like to have that sort of swagger is what a championship caliber team has to have. And I feel like we got that this year. So them letting each other know that it kind of is one of those things that can go without saying, but once it's said in a player to player relationship, it just changes things, man. It just makes it personal. And it's like the central nervous system of the entire organization. And then you've got all these other factors. Obviously the coaches are part of that as well, but there's there's just something like a level of authenticity that comes because it's kind of the way football started, right? Like if we're just going back, like getting poetic a little bit here, like football started not with guys, coaches and big staffs and stuff like that. It started with just dudes like that love to challenge each other and play this competitive game that we've now like institutionalized and like made into this big entertainment gladiator type environment, but still that the roots of the game and being able to have those player-to-player connections, man, like I know I've kind of overemphasized it at this point, but those to me, that would be the biggest thing if I was one of those captains, is prioritizing a moment like that, even if they haven't had it yet, to have it like before tonight at 7 p.m. in South Bend, and to take the time to really look each other in the eye and say, hey, like we've gotten here, like we have faced the ups and the downs, we've had the Valley of the Shadow of Death moment at our own home stadium, and now we're back here at our own home stadium for a massive redemption moment to be able to show people that we are the real deal. Because if they go out there and play to the level that I believe they can play in this playoff game, they'll show people, hey, we're here for real. Yeah. And
a wonderful expression of appreciation of the Notre Dame football program, the fan base, and what it is to be the quarterback of Notre Dame. That was penned by Riley Leonard, the Players Tribune. If you guys haven't had a chance to read it, go ahead and make sure you read it leading into the game. Just his expression of that NIU loss and how he got it. Like that was the moment that he got it. And I have tipped my cap to that young man, because that was a moment that could have broken a lot of people emotionally and mentally. Just broken. And he knew that he had things to fix, and he was willing to go ahead and do what needed to be done. And then Marcus Freeman and the staff did what was necessary to be able to kind of like take him apart and kind of build him back up, because he was surrounded by a team that could support him until he got to the point that he's playing at. Because he played, you take away the interception, which is a bad ball, and if he can just eliminate those bad situations, Riley Leonard is going to do what he needs to do, right? Left, you say it all the time. He's probably the only quarterback in the playoff that can throw for 150 and run for 50, and that's all his team really needs for them to win. He doesn't have to throw for 300.
Yeah, I mean, this is we're giving a lot of credit to a guy that we gave a lot of help to. It's like the trust fund, baby. Oh, you lost everything, but you started with $2 million. It's like, damn, poor you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you failed, but
there's nothing wrong with trust fund babies, man. I'm laying up a little
something for but it's like, okay, man. you went into some debt, but you started with a $2 million. Like, okay, like what about the guy that had nothing? How about that? But I do think that he is grateful for what Notre Dame gives most people when they come there from other places.
Yeah.
A nice opportunity for a stepping stone to better yourself to the next level, which is funny because it's different for guys that take the path of the 4 years through Notre Dame. But if you get a 1 year at Notre Dame, the probability of success is high, whether you do good or not. I mean, we done passed guys through. We done rolled out the red carpet. We done shut down the town. I mean, we done did everything for 1 year guys. So 1 year guys seem to be a great path if you want to come to Notre Dame, coaches included. Now, if you go on the spectrum of, okay, what's Riley's impact? Well, I would like to read the letter after the championship. Then it'll make me feel better at the end of the day. Don't give me the goodbye before the stuff starts to happen. Like, no, wait a minute. No, wait. Save it. But after the big moments, and this is not hating. This is just like, don't give me the tearful stuff yet. Let me tear up after you done beat Georgia, then you drop the letter. You know what I mean? Give me something to be chomping at the bit. It's like the Sam Hartman letting them go out of senior day the last one. It's like, okay, it may not be a big deal to people who not around, right? Like, but Cam, you feel away. It's like, how you go last? You know, you just got here. Not that I need to go last myself or anything, but just like, how? You know, I think that just some things you have to go through the fire for.
Sure.
So to not go through the necessary fire, you lost a game that we shouldn't have lost, okay. But dude, we had a way better team than everybody down the schedule. It was plenty of opportunity to grow, which Notre Dame provided, which I think is just, you know, when 2 and 2 meet. Now, I would love to see to put the team on your back moment. I think that's where you earn respect from the guys around you.
Yeah.
Has there been a put the team on your back moment for this guy? No. Like, I'm not going to be fooled by no Texas A&M, by no, you know, USC. You know, I want to see the team on the back where everybody's looking around for the answer, and he put the cape on. I just think that's what earned it. Joe Burrow did it. Joe Burrow did it. I mean, he was making moments the entire season. I think that was just a special moment. But as an example of,
it's hard to compare Riley to Joe, though. I mean, like when we're talking Joe Burrow,
I know
we're talking about one of the most talented football teams to ever
and we don't have one of the most talented. See,
no, bro.
Not Joe Burrow. Like,
no,
like,
I think our defense is better. I think
like
our defense is better.
like 2001 level type like team, you know, that we're talking about. We have a really talented football team, but.
See, hold on now. What are we missing?
No, I'm thinking defensively. You had Stingley, who was a top 5 pick. You had Delpit. You had Patrick Queen. The front 4 really didn't have a big name.
Oh, see, okay.
So I mean, but
Drake Bowen's going to be a drafted player. Jay Osborne.
I mean, the whole entire linebacking core is going to the NFL.
Okay, the entire secondary drafted players. Okay, hold on now. Wait, let me break it down.
These guys are too.
Wait a minute.
But offensively, it's not close.
Drake Bowen's a redshirt freshman. Like,
I'm just saying, this is now. I'm talking when they're ready. This is now. These are guys playing right now. These are all drafted type of players. Now, offensively, what are we saying? You got Riley Leonard supposed to be big time. He was more big time than Joe Burrow on the transfer.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris Mitchell.
Yeah, you know this is recorded, right? Ladies and gents in the chat, because the chat is starting to mention this. I want to make sure, be very careful, because when we start talking Cincinnati Bengals, you know, I'm gonna bring these clips back up. I just be very careful what you say. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that. Listen, we're very comparable to some of the great teams, but these moments I think matter. I think if you had to look, what were the moments of the season? The only thing we're riding off of is a bad moment. But in terms of the moments that have made this season special, we've dominated teams.
You know, I'll say this. I wanted you guys to go ahead and talk about Riley Leonard, because I wanted to get to his mental approach. Like penning that letter and seeing that he finally gets it, and he's gotten his play to a point now where he was able to go ahead and make some pinpoint passes against USC in a game where the defense didn't play his best. He was able to lead the charge to 49 points. 35 offensively, the last 14 coming from the defense on the pick sixes. But do you think he's ready for the moment? Like, do you get that vibe that, okay, Riley's ready for this moment and to lead? He's gone through what he's had to go through, which is a lot. Injuries, missing time in the spring, missing time in the fall, you know, going through what they call the quarterback competition with Steve Angeli, coming out of that. I said a so-called. I didn't say that's what they called it, Left. I didn't call it. Think about it.
Okay, but that's not. We literally left it wide open for him the entire time. We didn't give him any strife. It wasn't in the building. I agree with you. I just want to know
from you and Cam, do you feel like he is ready to do what is necessary since he doesn't have to do what every other quarterback in the playoff has to do for his team to win?
I think that makes him more ready in some ways. I know this is kind of the antithesis of what Malik's been looking for from Notre Dame for a really long time because, dude, to me, like Riley I just see him as like a football guy, like more than anything, like more than like a pure quarterback, gonna make like all the biggest plays for the team type of thing. He does enough essentially to set the rest of his team up for success. And when you've got a team as talented as he has, that's really what he's got to do.
Yeah.
And like, I think there will be moments like Luck's talking about in these bigger games to where if he ends up playing at his highest caliber, he's going to need to play almost Tim Tebow-esque, type football.
He's Max Dugan for TCU, but with a better defense. He's Max Dugan.
He's so disrespectful, man.
What do you mean? Max Dugan was in New York.
Hey, no, real talk. Max Dugan plays some darn good football.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
He's a good player. And it's an like I get the comparison for sure. But Max did he had key moments for that team all throughout the season up until where they got blown out in the championship game. So
how'd they get blown out?
Because they played one of the best college football teams probably in the last 10 years from a talent standpoint. Just go look at that. The defense he's faced, they're pretty much playing for the Philadelphia Eagles right now, who are the best defense in the NFL. That's what Max Dugan was facing. So
yeah, man.
Let that speak for itself.
And then the concept of momentum, which happens in these championship games, just because a team gets blown out in a championship game, that doesn't necessarily, to me, always epitomize what that the full capacity of what that team has been able to do throughout a season. Let's just say that matchup with TCU 9 out of 10 times, I think TCU would come out with one. I do. I think they would, but that doesn't.
That one time, you would think the same thing in the semifinal matchup with Michigan. All they needed was one time.
I mean, look at how Michigan came back. They lost to TCU the year before that, and
right?
So, prospectively, are we going to say that Michigan goes in there and gets blown out the same way and then comes back and wins it the next year? It is you show up on a day and you get how you show up for that day. And sometimes dudes just show up in a different way on certain days, and there's so many variables and other things in life going on. So
are you in better shape? You just said something, Cam. And I want you to expand upon that. Showing up. Is there a direct correlation to showing up from a talent standpoint versus a culture standpoint? I think Notre Dame has what we coined as dogs. I think Notre Dame has some dogs on defense that I trust. I trust that these guys are going to show up tonight. Yeah. I just trust that's who they are and what they have in them, that they're going to show up in the biggest moments. I trust that Jeremiah Love is going to show up tonight. 100%. So is it a result of just having those type of guys on the roster? Or is it more about just chance and anyone can be that guy at any given time? Max Dugan could have had a great day against Georgia. He just didn't happen to have it because Georgia just had a bunch of, pun intended, dogs on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I'll use one practical Notre Dame example so people can make fun of me in the chat if they want to. But 2013, us against Alabama, okay? What people don't know, or some people know now, is that, 2 weeks before the game goes down, Manti like finds out all the stuff about his, girlfriend scenario. And like, he's now having to go through the emotions of all of that. And I mean, like, we're talking like we gave this girl the like game ball, like from the Michigan game type of thing. Like everybody in the stadium wearing lays, and it was all like a big facade, big scam. And he's having to mentally go through that. And the rest of the team doesn't really know, other than maybe a couple guys that like he was like sharing that inside information with. I didn't know. And I know that there were other guys on the team that didn't know. The coaching staff obviously knew. So like they're taking that into consideration. Like, go back and look at the way that Manti played in that game compared to the rest of the season. That's our best player. Like, our best player and our best shot at being able to be competitive against a highly talented Alabama team. And like, because I would argue because he like we came to play like against other teams that year. We played really like talented teams that year. And the way that we showed up, and then the way that momentum just continued to like fall outside of our favor, that was not the same sort of team, I would argue, that, we were playing as throughout the entirety of the year.
Now, I'm going to go, you just open the door, so I'm walking right through. Were you one of the guys standing behind him that saw Alabama walk out? Were you one of the guys that said, oh, that's the way he told the story. He was like, yo, I'm like, okay, all right.
That was, so that to me, and I love Manti, man. Like he was an amazing leader, amazing human. And I would never like speak anything negatively about that guy. But as far as that moment goes and the way that he described it, I think that was more.
That's so funny, bro.
I think that was more.
You got the most disclaimers I've ever heard.
No, man, like that's my team, dude. I love that dude. So I guess what I'm saying though is like I think that was a projection moment. I think that was like he had his own internal stuff and his own stuff, and he's projecting like that moment because I don't think anybody was like that. I think that we were all like
trying to doctor up.
We were all ready to play.
You can't just say he was scared and he was trying to put it out there that it wasn't him.
Yo, that's why you're here, Luck. That's why you're here. I don't do it like that. But it is. I mean, it is that way because the dude is not that's not him. That's not Manti. Like Manti's Manti's not a dude that like showing up at his very best that shows up scared. Like when your best player shows up that way, that's gonna reflect, and as a captain, that's gonna reflect through the rest. No, this is bro.
No, that's real talk. That's real talk.
Yo, I am telling you, like,
said we ride by our captain. Our captain wasn't ready, bro. He was.
Yo, like no. Like,
and because he wasn't ready, he our captain. We rolled behind him so hard. Can't try to give him outs now. Can't try to hit him with the. Oh, he was dealing with the girlfriend.
No, bro. I'll break this down. I'll break this down in like a quantum physics perspective for you because I've done this before on this podcast with you guys.
I can't do it. I want to hear this, Left. I want to hear this because this is about. Because this goes into
Luck,
moments like this.
Do you believe in collective consciousness?
Okay.
Do you believe in that?
I believe that it happens. Like Marcus Freeman has a sense where everybody's in that Marcus Freeman era. Yeah. Okay,
so just outside of Notre Dame football, do you believe in collective consciousness?
Yes.
Okay. So this is something in quantum physics that we can bring into the context of the game of football. If you have a leader on a team, so somebody that everybody identifies as like, dude, we ride behind this is one of our guys. He's one of our champions. Champion means ardent defender of people and purpose. So when you're talking about a champion, when you're talking about a captain, you're talking about somebody that represents the culture, represents the ethos of that team. So if one of your guys, one of your leaders, like, is not mentally there, it will affect, like, from a quantum physics perspective, that will literally have an effect on everybody else that's surrounding that individual, because you can tangibly feel the energetics of that person, whether it's like spoken or unspoken. Like, that just, like, when you get around people that have like true discernment, everybody has discernment, whether they like know it or not. We sometimes, like, somebody will walk into a room, it's like, oh, I feel really weird around that person. That was like a interesting experience. Or if somebody walks into a room and you're like, wow, that person is just radiant, like they're an epic individual, like you can feel something about them. There's an energetic there. And so what I'm talking about is team energetics. And I'm talking about the fact that, like, if you're captain and the person that's like supposed to be the best football player on like your team and single-handedly really helped get you to like that stage, shows up with fear in his heart, like around everything else that's going on, like, dude, that's going to affect the rest of the team at a quantum level, at an unspoken level. And it's kind of what I've described about the art of momentum, like, or the science of momentum. So the science of momentum is essentially like, man, you start facing, you're down 31-6 at halftime or whatever, and you've got a bunch of guys thinking, like, shit, man, I'm just ready to get home and like play video games. I'm ready to see my girl, like all this stuff. And
you were, like, a sophomore, right?
Yeah, I was a sophomore. So, like, you get all these people thinking these these distracted thoughts and stuff like that. That actually affects the dynamic of the collective consciousness of a team trying to like achieve a thing out there on the field. But like, it can happen the opposite way, to where you have almost like a William Wallace effect of a guy that stands up in courage and has the ability to say, like, no, like, we're not like giving up here. Like, we are going to like make a stand, and here's what we represent, and here's who you are. And that like speaks back to the identity.
And you're saying Manti didn't have the Walter Williams effect.
William Wallace.
William Wallace.
Well, I mean,
Braveheart effect. Yeah.
He didn't have it that day.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, if he's describing that if he's describing that's how his team felt, that's a reflection of how he was feeling.
Yeah, say the man was wrong.
I'm not even saying he was wrong. I'm saying that, like,
I love Cam so much because he broke it down.
It's a projection, bro.
So the man was lying, Cam. He told a lie. He said y'all was scared. He was scared. It's like you eloquently broke down quantum physically. You can't be, your leader is going to affect everybody else.
I'm glad you're entertained.
Lucky Lefty podcast. Lucky Lefty podcast. Mind you, goes back to the conversation about Riley Leonard. I think Riley Leonard, in a sense, had a moment where he could have folded, right? As a captain, as a leader. Some people question, why did he get a C? He's never taken a snap for Notre Dame. He didn't even practice through the full spring. Like, how does he get a captain's C on his chest? And you said it. It wasn't earned, but I think what he's done after NIU has gone a long way to gaining respect from his teammates and earning some of that C on his chest.
Absolutely. He's, I don't hate Riley Leonard at all. I think it's his process is just obviously not the same.
Ignore it, man. Ignore that stuff. When people say you hate Riley Leonard, ignore that stuff. People, man, I get so irritated with people, man, that have so one-sided views of the world that they can't accept someone that has a different view. And they don't realize they're the ones.
That's why you bring me in to polarize the scenario and
give us
and break it down in a more polite way.
It's just if someone thinks or speaks opposite of what you believe, you automatically want to say they're hating. But then you don't want to give them credit when what they say literally comes to pass. Then you get quiet. You don't want to give any credit. You label them a hater. Everything they said was going to happen plays out, and all you want to do, because you have no choice now but stick to the moniker of you're just a hater. You're just a hater. That, for me, that's when I take an issue. I think we can all be objective enough that if I don't agree, that's fine. But when I have vitriol come out of me, that lets me know where my heart is. Because I don't have to have vitriol in my heart or in my response or give a moniker or label you just because we disagree. I don't. Like, we all disagree on some aspect of this game. If all of us sat down and talked about how we think this game is going to play out, I guarantee you we're going to disagree on how we think the game is going to play out. We're going to disagree on the score. We're going to disagree on whether or not Notre Dame starts fast, whether or not the running game is going to get going. We're going to find disagreement at some point. Regardless of what we all think, we all want Notre Dame to win. That's the point. We all feel like Notre Dame is going to win. We all feel like Notre Dame has a chance to win a national championship at the end of the day. So ultimately, if that's what we all feel, where's the hate?
Yeah.
Where's the hate? It's objective conversation that we all, at some point, are going to share thoughts, and we're going to have differing thoughts. So, Left, don't just overlook that stuff, man. Like, no one in this, let me tell you something, no one is a bigger homer for Notre Dame football in its entirety than Malik ZAIRE. On camera and off camera. Like, this isn't he's not acting. When he starts talking like, yo, we're going to blow everybody out, he's not acting. This is his everyday conversation that he believes in his heart of hearts. Just period. So, all right, Left, you can go ahead. I just felt like I wanted to go ahead and throw that in there.
Yeah, seriously, like, we know you're hating, though.
Oh my! So let's talk.
We know that's your way of doing it. Just prodding a little bit at like, hey, prove yourself a little bit more. Prove yourself a little bit more.
So how do you think DeMarco comes out in this game? Indiana, best rush defense in the nation. Knowing Mike DeMarco, you said it earlier. You feel like he's going to go for it. Like, you know, Mike DeMarco, both of you played for him. He's going to go for it. How do you think he comes out early? Does he come out trying to establish the run, or do they come out spreading the ball around and getting it to the wide receivers to open up the run game because they know that's something they can always go back to? How do you see him attacking this Indiana defense?
I think they're not going to change much. I don't think they need to change much for this game. That's just the way that I see it. I feel like Indiana is the type of matchup for them to where by them controlling the clock and managing the clock with the run game is going to be key. I think it's kind of obvious, and that they'll really try to establish that run game early. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see something unique, a little twist or something like that. A big shot. Like, I wouldn't be surprised about that, knowing DeMarco. But I think it kind of goes back to some of the things that Luck was saying at the beginning of the podcast. It's like, because of the way that the offense has been building momentum through the season, I think that there's a lot of options. And so if you're in Indiana, what are you going to do? Because technically speaking, Jeremiah Love is the biggest threat, but he's only getting 10 to 15 carries a game. Mm-hmm. So you can't just like key him as the only dude. You have to be able to be aware of the other threats on the field all the time, and everybody else is doing enough, or more than enough now, to for basically that offense to make a play in a variation of ways. So again, I think in simplicity, they established the running game, and that just opens up the rest of the playbook for Denbrock.
Oh man, what would you guys be more excited about, the most excited about tonight, if you were coming through that tunnel? Because you guys have come through that tunnel for big games, big matchups, first game of the season, never for a playoff game. Will it be different? Like, will it hit the players once they run through the tunnel and look up and feel the electricity? Will it hit them as
It is. I mean, it just kind of the reality of it. It is different. Will it feel different than a home game? No, but yes. So I remember my senior year, typically in Texas high school football, like we play at neutral sites for all of our playoff games, but we had a coach that we were playing that wanted to flip for home and home to basically try to get home field advantage. And so our coach obliged, and we won that toss, and we're able to play our first playoff game at home. And man, that was one of the funnest games of my life. It was because we had senior day and thought it was our last time there and all this stuff. But then to have another moment to play in that stadium is kind of like, it's just a massive blessing, man. So I think that they're going to play with a lot of enthusiasm.
Go ahead, Lev.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, coming out on a playoff game in these conditions, you gotta find a way to get yourself hype. You gotta find a way to get yourself up, because the conditions and the moment, you don't want that to overwhelm you from doing your job. And it's one of those things where you take it in after game's over, then you start want to dive in the snow and do the snow angels and get in the stands. It's one of those good feels after a game. And it's just a special moment. I think for it to never be done, and for the guys to share this experience and be at Notre Dame and all the feels and even the aesthetic of playing your little brother down the street. I think this is a moment to remember, regardless of if it's for a championship or not.
Left, did you see that Robbie Toma? I think, Cam, did you play with Robbie, or was he gone? I think, did you play with Robbie?
He was part of that national championship team.
Oh, Robbie's so petty, man. He's really one of the pettiest former Notre Dame players on game days, and especially during games. He's been trolling the Indiana fans all week. So Indiana posted, how you show the video of the team getting on the plane and, heading to their destination. So Indiana did a little hype video, and they showed their team getting on the plane. And Robbie was like, oh, man, he retweets it and says, oh, they're cooked. The fact that you took a plane to South Bend and you're in state lets me know that you're super soft. Like, Robbie, I mean, what's wrong with taking a quick 20? That flight has to be, 25 minutes, 30 minutes at the most?
Yeah, it's a quick flight. That's funny.
He was like, man, get on the bus. He was like, y'all not ready.
Versus a 4-hour drive.
Right.
You gotta think, this is their Super Bowl. This is like they're flying to like they're burning the boats. You know what I mean? It's the trip of a lifetime. This is
everything to that program, bro.
Yeah, this is we're going to do a mission. This is the whole thing for them, and it's like they're spending all this money because you have to for a 1-game playoff season.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a program that is like, this is a big time institution. Like IU is a big time sports institution and has had notoriety in sports. Like, I don't like. This is me being a bad sports historian right now, but I don't know when the last time like their football team has even been relevant, like to this
COVID year for a while with Penix.
Yeah,
but hurt, but not to this point. No,
not even close to like where they're at right now. So yeah, man. It's an epic time for these guys. And again, I think it just goes back to some of the stuff we talked about earlier, like perspective shift. It's, I would say, equally as epic for Notre Dame, and equally as like the opportunity is fresh and there, and they have to prove themselves as basically like, hey, we belong to be here as a playoff team playing a top 10 football team at our home stadium. And then for IU, like just like Luck said, this is a Super Bowl. This is like, man, if they win this game, like that would be so much for their program this year. And to go in against,
yeah, it's another Thomas Hammock. He's gonna go around the country doing all these interviews, and this is like, you know, I think it's for us is everything to lose, nothing to gain. For them, it's everything to win, everything to gain. So I think we just need to take care of business, make this nice and easy. You know, put the baby to bed. I know the baby want to cry, but you got to give him a bubble bath. You got to get your little snack before bed. Tuck him in. You know, it's going to be late. Those guys are usually with their families at this time of the year, so they're not really comfortable outside of the bubble, you know. Like, this is late in the season. This is deep waters. You know, this is one thing from being on the beach. You can look out and you can look over the horizon and standing on the beach. But now you're deep in the water. They don't know how to act. You know, they're not used to what fork goes where and what where you're supposed to put your napkin, and because they've never been this deep before. So for us, it's just a matter of putting the baby to sleep, baking the cake, right? Chestnuts over the open fire. Get your hot cocoa ready. Get your classic Christmas stories, and you know, I think this is the time because this is all sweet. Because the week after is what it makes the season what it should be. That's what matters. This is just to feel good. Let's get our little monies, you know. But how serious can you take this game, Cam?
Malik Zaire, ladies and gentlemen. Malik Zaire.
Cam, do you think that this is a game we should worry about? I don't think this is just like,
I don't. Who said any dude? And Cam said, man. Only take one time.
What benefit does it bring you to worry, like, ever? Even if you're playing a like really talented football team. So again, that goes back to like my philosophy on team energetics. I mean, if we're like, you should be able to win any game at this point. Like, that's the way that you should view yourself as Notre Dame. But you should also respect your opponent to the extent of they're here. Like, they made it to like this point. And so, you know, there's that mutual respect, and then there's the expect to win. So I think as a championship program, you have to expect to win, and respecting your opponent is not necessarily, that's not worrying about your opponent. It's just the understanding and the validation of, hey, like, if we don't show up as our best, like, we're not going to win this football game.
Might not be able to win.
Yeah.
Here's a super chat that you might find interesting from ND Milton fan. Cam, what is the collective identity or consciousness of Lucky Lefty?
Oh man, that's a tough one for me. I think that would be a Malik question. So it's his vision at the end of the day, and I think that spinning it differently would be my answer, which they do very well.
Yeah, there you have it.
Very solid, Cam. Very solid.
Let's get it before we get you out of here, Cam. We thank you for your time today. Once again, kickoff Notre Dame, Indiana tonight, Notre Dame Stadium. The very first, that's the historical part of it. It's not just the first college football playoff. Notre Dame is hosting the very first game ever to be played in the college football playoff. That's the extra layer to this. People that try to tell you Notre Dame is not relevant. You're seeing it. You're seeing it now. You see Notre Dame is first, prime time. That shows you Notre Dame will always be relevant. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Loren Landow. You're not inside the program. I know you had other ventures that you've gotten into recently, but we talked about this prior to the season. You were interested in seeing how things played out. Now, for some reason, the shoulder injuries and the knee injuries have been the bulk of the injuries that have been sustained. But on the field, Notre Dame, week to week, has, I think, considerably been the more physical team.
Yeah.
You watch these games, it plays out with Notre Dame being a more physical team. I've never seen you played against, MALIK talks about this all the time. Like, once you play an academy team, you don't look forward to it for the next 3 years. Like, you hate that week of practice and you don't like playing that game because they just never quit. I think this was the first time I've watched Notre Dame play Army Navy, and even the academies were like, yo, this Notre Dame team hits hard. Dude, they call him Captain America, the quarterback for Army. He was like, post-game, he was like, man, look, yeah, we haven't seen anything like that all year. So talk about the impact of Loren Landow, some concerns you might have with injuries from what you've seen as evidence, and then the physicality of this team and how they've considerably been more physical than their opponents on a consistent basis.
Yeah. First off, I have to give him credit for the way these young kids are showing up. So obviously the preparation there has been excellent, and young guys have been able to step up and compete in a very physical manner. So you always got to give somebody credit that's able to bring, the younger guys up to speed and have a next man in mentality that doesn't skip a beat when you have a big loss like Benjamin Morrison. So like these are big deals. And so I got to give him credit there. I think I was mentioning to you, man, there's like so many injuries and you're like, they've just been everywhere like this year though. And you're right. They have been. So I have my own speculations as to kind of like what's going on. I have some stuff that I feel like can remedy like the scenario, like ultimately with some of these, injuries on the field and some innovations that I'm working on there, behind the scenes, which is kind of fun. They're fun projects that I would love to talk about at some point when we're ready to. But essentially, man, I think these knee injuries and lower leg injuries, showing up like in the turf context. I know this is talked about and this is popular amongst players that want to play more on grass. I think that there's something to be said there. I think the data definitely shows that you're more likely to get injured, playing on these turf surfaces. So I think that that's a big part of it. Other than that, I don't have a ton of other comments, other than we have had a lot of injuries that I'd like to see avoided. Like, we'd love to have all of our studs available at this time of the year, and we don't. We've lost some, key players, but that's part of the game, and it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, it's Cajun Irish, man. Thank you. Yes, I'm braving the cold, and I'm braving myself. I'm really not braving the cold. I'm braving myself because I'm different. That's what's changed. I'm different. Because this is the same weather I used to stand on the bus stop, no hat, no earmuffs, nothing, and boss up, nothing. I'm good. Now, I don't even want to go get in the car in the same weather. It's like, so pray for me because I'm changing. I think my blood is probably a little bit thinner. Something's going on. I have Cam send me some stuff that can get me back right. Give me some vitamins or some other things that I can do. But ultimately, I'm impressed. Left, you talked about this. Week to week, we just can't. Anytime it's an injury timeout, it's like, yo, it's another player on the opposing team laid out. Man, we got to go to commercial again. Another player's down. You saw it against USC. It's another USC player down. Oh, it's another USC player down. You know, I think the one game that really impacted Notre Dame was that Purdue game. In that Purdue game, we lost Jordan Botello. We lost two of our starting offensive linemen, and we were blowing them out. But just the freakish injuries, guys getting rolled up on, getting caught in piles. And I laughed because as a basketball player, I don't know how it is with guys playing football and pick up football, but as basketball players, you get to a certain point when you're a good player, you don't like playing pickup games against people that you know aren't as good as you. Because I think there's a sense of protection that comes with, you know, people being on the same level, right? When you have guys out there that are just weekend warriors, you know, playing basketball, it's like, you know what, you're going a little bit too hard right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it just felt like that's who Purdue was to me in that game. Like, come on, guys, like, you're not that good, and we're the ones out here getting hurt, you know, as we blow you out. It was just one of those freakish weekends that impacted the season. But I think they'll make adjustments. But I will say this, physically speaking, whatever conversation took place with the previous SC guy, S&C guy, that made Marcus Freeman make the decision to move on or part ways, you know, and eventually land on Loren Landow. I think the physicality of this team that I think is going to show up tonight, because I don't think it's going to show up necessarily early on. But when you get deep in the waters, like you said, Left, Indiana has not been deep in the water. And to get deep in the water with a physical team like Notre Dame in the third quarter and into that fourth quarter, right? We saw it in the very first game. Texas A&M was shutting down the run for the most part, right? But then hit third quarter, Jadarian Price breaks a big one. And then the last drive, when Notre Dame needs it most, what do they go to? Hey, we're just going to run the ball down your throat. And it's fourth quarter now. You've been stopping it for 2.5 quarters. Can you stop it now? For me, that's the challenge for Indiana. I expect them to come out just as fired up, making plays early. Can you stop this Notre Dame run game for 4 quarters, for 60 minutes? Do you have enough? Do you have the depth? I don't think they do. Do you have the talent? I don't think you do. But we'll see. And I think that will be a testament again, which will go to the true test of the physicality. If they win tonight, the real test of physicality is next week. Or not next week, but the next game.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia will be the real test of whether or not Notre Dame is a championship physical football team. Yeah. But it starts tonight.
Yeah, they're the toughest team in college football right now, just as far as like a prove it objectively what they've been through and what they've overcome. Georgia.
Speaking of Georgia,
yeah,
that Texas game was impressive mentally.
It was. I mean, and the game the game before that against Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
like, to come out on top there when, you know, it should have been over.
Yeah,
is crazy. And to go through moments like that, just they make you stronger. And this time of the year, basically, to be like, man, we've been here before, as far as like up against the ropes, like, and they've. I think that goes back to some of the things that we were talking about with Riley Leonard and MALIK, kind of saying like, hey, like, hasn't had a ton of those moments yet to where he's had to lead his team through something like that. And I would agree. I think that we haven't really been there as a team. But, you know, that's where you lean on kind of, I believe, just the history like of Notre Dame and like the greater like ethos of the program prestige. If we're playing, NCAA 2005 right now,
Yeah.
We use that program prestige swag, if you will, to just remember that like we've been here as a program before, and this is how we show up as Notre Dame football. That to me is one of the special parts about the program in general, is to be the Fighting Irish, and like everything that represents is really beautiful and poetic, and stuff that I think is so beautiful about Notre Dame.
Is that, I think we kind of touched on it, but you crystallized it with what you just said, and I want to bring it out before we get out of here. If we project a matchup with Georgia and Notre Dame, talent is one thing. I think Notre Dame is probably just as talented. The roster is the same, especially with how everything is evened out over the last 2 or 3 years, and they've lost a lot in the portal, and they don't have the same depth. I think talent is going to be really close. But there is a well that has been dug in that Georgia program that they can pull from. And they don't pull from it. They're not front runners. Georgia, they're not front runners. They have something to pull from when their backs are against the wall. They just have this belief that is built into that culture, man. That Georgia Tech game, both Texas games, like you see it come forth. Even in their loss to Alabama, the fact that they came back and took the lead for being down by that large margin, they are used to that. They believe. To me, I wouldn't want it any other way for Notre Dame to have to overcome a Georgia team that's going to be pulling from that well, because they believe in that. If you can beat them, that changes everything, in my opinion, about the narrative of Notre Dame moving forward. Like, that's going to get you the respect that the fan base and the program has been craving. I really do. And it starts tonight. I'm not overlooking Indiana at all. And I know people.
Well, we have the privilege to be able to do that here. Like we get to speculate and have these conversations, and so I think that's all fair game. And
but don't you think? Do you think fans? Because we can say, "Oh, they're not that good." Oh, Georgia's not that good, and it's like, no, you don't understand, like, how difficult. Yeah, you can sit up here and say Georgia Tech was up big, but you don't understand how difficult it was to do what Georgia did.
Yeah.
You don't understand how difficult it was to come back like they. I think we take it for granted because we look at stats and highlights but you played the game, bro. You and Left played the game. That's to do what they do.
Well, to go through that schedule and to be where they are and to have done what they've done and the way that they've done it makes them sneakily one of the more favorite teams, I believe, to go on to the championship game, because they've just got the grit to do it. And that's what you need at this time of the year. Like, their grit factor is most proven out of all the other programs for sure. I think Texas probably has like the most to prove in that realm, because they looked like the team that could be the team in college football to be like, oh, this is the new dominant program in college football. And when they got put to the test in the big moments, their grit just wasn't there. And so that's what we get to practice, tonight. And if we're, I guess not practice, but play for. And ultimately, each level is just another test, to get to the final level and to be able to have a pathway that goes through Georgia. I feel like beating Georgia gives I think it just gives a sincere. I think there's just so many Notre Dame fans out there that are ready to see Notre Dame win against an elite SEC championship team like that in a playoff scenario. I mean, it's something we've never done. We just haven't done it. Like, we beat SEC teams in, you know, bowl games that don't matter, but like to do it in this way, you know, in the postseason, and to have an epic game against Indiana that I'm hoping for and believing for, and then to follow it up with a game against Georgia. That's amazing, baby. I love that. So we got all the homeschool kids coming in at this point and showing Daddy some art projects.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best, bro.
Yeah.
That's the bro, man. My daughter's 22. I fell asleep on the couch. She came downstairs and laid across me at 22.
Good job, baby.
And I might as well just melted into the couch. Still at this point. So I mean, dude, that's the best. And we love it. Hey, they're called. Those are our new co-hosts. That's all. Because both of Left's boys, they've produced, they've jumped on, they've added content. And so I think one time your eldest girl was with you for a majority of the end of one show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Kev, how many you got right now?
This is Benaya. This is my lefty. So
all right.
Naya is a lefty, Malik. So
that's awesome. She's probably your favorite. Now I'm playing.
Yeah. And then Ivana right here is my youngest daughter. So she's 6.
So you have four babies?
I got 4. Yeah.
Man, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Left, you want more? You want more? You haven't gotten your girl yet, so
I would love to have 2 more with my beautiful woman, Raven. Just trying to work it out, man.
All right. 4 is a good number. I settled on 1, so I'm good.
Yeah.
I gave.
You might have something to that. You might have something to that.
I gave Ed. When I tell you, my wife and I, we laugh all the time. Cam, before you came on, the discussion was preparing gifts. Left was like, "Yo, do you know what to get when you go shopping?" And I said, "Pretty much."
Kim, you got 4 kids.
You have 4 kids now. Are you good at catching hints throughout the year so that you know towards the end of the year what you have to get?
No, I'm still not good at that.
How do you handle gift giving on birthdays, holidays, and planning for your wife with everything going on? How do you handle it?
Man, the way that we have seen it at this point is we're in this like season of beautiful chaos, and so we've got little ones running around everywhere, and it's just a lot. There's no way else to say it, but we love it and just try to take the individual moments in the present and just realize the treasure there that we have right in front of us. And so as far as planning goes, man, we suck there. Like, that's been something. So we're like so spontaneous and so just, I mean, we're like hippie Christian mystic family that homeschools our kids, and like we teach our kids like quantum physics and energetics and stuff like that. And so we're very, very unorthodox in the way that we do it, but we love it.
Oh, I love it. So as they continue and they grow into extracurriculars, is there a direct connection to public schools or private institutions that will come with that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how it's going to look, because obviously like sports is changing so much with NIL moving into high school and stuff now, and like so I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but there are like really unique connections for homeschool kids being able to be connected to public schools here to play sports. So they just kind of started to implement more of that in Texas. That's been a first for Texas, and other states have kind of led the way there. But I think because so many of the younger generation are starting to do more specialized schooling programs and homeschool, which is what we do. We do like specialized programs to where like our oldest daughter might go to a specialized program for like a semester or something like that, and then homeschool for a semester. Just looks way different these days. So as far as plugging them in, when middle school and high school sports come around, I'm still not quite sure what that'll look like, but there are a few public schools that I've been hypothesizing could be a good place to plug in, my kids when it comes time for that.
Have they tapped into the collective consciousness that they're future domers yet?
Oh man, my youngest one, or Benaiah, who you just saw, he definitely, he lives for these Notre Dame football games, and it's just like we're playing catch all the time, and he's got the bug, and I didn't even give it to him. I wasn't like,
yeah, I know you didn't show him the highlights, Cam. Come on now, I know you done played the highlights. He just hanging out,
like stuff like that, but he just. Yeah, he wants to break out the highlights and
I know you want to break them out too. Now,
wait a minute, see, Left. I have to ask him the same question I ask you honestly, because you put it on me, Cam. When Notre Dame makes the offer, is there going to be an NIL conversation?
It better come quick.
Oh, it's the best. Once again, Cam McDANIEL joining us right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. I told Left I am blessed because my daughter, all she wants now is cash. She doesn't have specific requests anymore. And my wife is so easy to please. And I'm thankful that she loves appliances so much that if I buy her an appliance, she doesn't need anything else. So amen. I am in a great season as a dad and as a husband. I'm in a great season, but I love giving anyway. That's just in my nature. So I try to give something every day. I don't care if it's a secret cup of coffee that I get delivered to the emergency room where she works.
That's right.
Something as simple as that. I know her order. Caramel macchiato, 2 pumps of hazelnut. Little caramel drizzle on the top, and
I know my baby's order too. She likes.
Well, what's her order?
She likes 4 pumps of blonde espresso, 12 pumps of classic.
12 pumps.
12 pumps of. It's half and half in a venti cup though.
Okay,
it's gotta last her all day.
Right.
You gotta shake it up, and then she used to like the creme brulee with the caramel creme brulee with the caramel on the top. The drizzle on the cup, that whole thing. So, I be trying to pay attention to the little things, man.
Okay. All right. That's the go-to. Cam, does the missus have a go-to? You know her special order for her coffee, or know how to make her coffee or whatever, tea or whatever she drinks?
Yeah, she likes some special herbal remedies that I'm able to whip up pretty well. So
there you go.
There you go.
There you go, Cam. Herbal remedies. Okay.
Hey, ladies and gents, by the way, the McDANIEL household, hey, the best tacos.
You throwing down with the tacos, Cam?
Hey, Cam has some taco variations that he can give you, Left. He can tell you how to hook up the taco. So we got to get your prediction before we get out of here, Left. Not Left, but Cam. Your prediction for tonight.
Go with. I was gonna say go with luck first, but I'll do it. I'm saying. I'm feeling 42-17 Notre Dame tonight.
Oh.
Cam's big
high
stick.
roller.
I know.
Mr. High Roller.
He's he's giving the points and walking to the window. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Left, I think your score was what? 37 to
33-17.
33-17. All
That's
right.
good too. I like that. 33 is a lucky number.
Hey, man. All I know is I want everybody to enjoy, be safe. We look forward to having a jubilant post-game show with you guys to talk about this win against Indiana and to forecast what can happen against Georgia, who will be without Carson Beck. I think the news broke yesterday that UCL injury is going to keep him out of at least the quarterfinals. It's the winner of this matchup between Indiana and Notre Dame. So, for Malik, ZAIRE, and Cam McDANIEL, we thank you for joining us today. As always, spin it different and go Irish. Lucky Lefty Podcast.
You'll say go
spin
Irish?
it different. Go Irish! That's what I'm talking about. Hey, everybody enjoy the game. We love you guys.